Are you autistic and have painful social trauma from your past that you would like to heal, but you don't know how? Or perhaps you're not autistic, but you still have some trauma having to do with socializing. Or maybe your nervous system is too much on guard all the time. You feel extremely nervous and anxious all the time. If this resonates with you, you have found yourself at the right place because this video is for you. Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Aino and I am here to help, heal, shift and transform you guys. So if this sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications so that you won't miss any opportunity to be helped, because I am here to help the humanity. Okay, let's dive right into it. First things first, we need to understand how and why do autistic people get socially traumatized in the first place. What creates this social trauma? Or even if you're not autistic, what makes you so socially traumatized? After studying this topic, I have come to the conclusion that this social trauma has to do with two main factors. Number one, autistic people are naturally born with significantly more sensitive and more reactive nervous systems than neurotypicals. Our nervous systems are naturally wired to react more strongly and more sensitively to not only sensory stimuli, but also social interactions and to everything that we perceive in the outside world. And that's why we have these so-called sensory issues with touch, lights, noises, etc. And number two, because this world is built for neurotypicals. This world isn't built for autistic or neurodivergent people. And this is why just existing as a neurodivergent individual in a world built against us is inherently traumatizing. Because the world doesn't understand us, people don't understand us, so they judge us, and therefore we get traumatized. So imagine what comes out of these two factors put together. First, an extremely reactive and sensitive nervous system, plus an environment full of people that have no idea about your condition, that bully you, that judge you, that makes it seem like it's your fault and there's something inherently wrong with you, that you just are the way you are, just who you are at your core. People constantly judge it, misunderstand it, and demonize it. As you can probably imagine, what comes out of this combination is devastating. You simply being yourself, expressing yourself freely as a child, like every child does, led to other people constantly bullying you, judging you, punishing you, misunderstanding you, and demonizing you, and ostracizing you. That's where it all comes from. And that's why it's so valid. Don't let anybody who hasn't lived a second in your shoes tell you that your trauma is not valid. Because if you perceive something as traumatizing, if you think you have trauma about something, it is then valid, because trauma has almost everything to do with how you perceived a situation, not what actually happened to you from the outer perspective. Okay, now that you understand the basics, I want to tell you my personal story on how this trauma has manifested itself in my life. Okay, so I grew up my entire childhood and my entire teenage years without having an idea that I am actually autistic. and ADHD, so I'm neurodivergent. I have two disabilities. And let me tell you, the effects it had on me in every sense possible is abysmal, and I don't wish it on anyone. The things I went through, I wouldn't wish it even on my worst enemy. So I got to know that I'm a neurodivergent when I was already 18 years old. And this basically happened by accident because I was actually visiting a neurologist because my teachers in high school had been complaining that I cannot finish my exams in time. And that was true. I always struggled finishing my exams in time. I always needed a lot more time to write my exams, and that was because I had undiagnosed ADHD and I couldn't focus on the exam itself because my mind would always be wandering somewhere else. So from there I got diagnosed with ADHD, and later I got to know that I also have autism, and it was a life-changing moment for me. It was a realization that all this time nobody noticed anything. I didn't even know about my conditions. And instead I had just always learned, and I had always been blaming myself for just who I am at my core. I had been just telling myself to try harder to be normal, to try harder to not make people uncomfortable by my weirdness. And I had been punishing myself for making other people uncomfortable by who I am, by the way I naturally exist and express myself. I blamed myself even for the things that I couldn't affect and that weren't my fault in the first place. Looking back, there were so many signs, some of them were very loud actually, of my neurodivergency, but nobody ever noticed them. Nobody ever saw or actually understood the distress I carried with me every single day, especially at school. I couldn't keep up with the teaching during lessons, and because of that, teachers would get mad at me. They would blame me for not focusing, but I had ADHD. I couldn't physically do it. It's not my fault, it's the way my brain works. Yeah, and I couldn't learn certain subjects that I wasn't interested in because I couldn't keep my focus on it. I was very impulsive and got into trouble because of that, and because I couldn't understand the consequences of my actions the same way as my neurotypical peers could. I was labeled as a problem child just because of the way my brain functioned, and just for the way I at my core was. Most of my teachers, they disliked me. Even if they hated, I could tell it by the way they treated the normal kids versus how they treated me. I got bullied. I ended up having no friends. I always got better along with students and people who were either older than me or that were younger than me. And I got judged for this as well. People called me childish because I played with kids that were younger than me. I had such a hard time navigating friendships. I got into huge fights with my best friends, and I probably hurt them unintentionally a lot, which makes me very sad to think about that. And all this could have been avoided if someone had just noticed. or at least alleviated. It breaks my heart to think that so many other kids go through the same or something similar, because it's a special type of hell to go through. Okay, now that you have heard my story and hopefully that made you feel less alone with your pain, I want to offer you all my knowledge on how to heal this social trauma. Because unlike many people think, it is very much possible to heal from this and even reverse it. Because we are limitless beings. Unlike we've been told, everything is possible. And you can rise above every single painful situation and turn it into a victory. I have personally just started healing my social trauma, but in such a short time I already see amazing results. So I'm sure this will help you too, but keep in mind that I'm still not a professional, and I would suggest that you would also seek professional help. For example, with a therapist who has special experience with autism and other neurological conditions. Okay, the first step to your healing is to identify what exactly hurt you. What are the things that have traumatized you exactly? For example, you can start by looking back into your childhood and recalling moments where you maybe were called names or people reacted to your self-expression in a judgmental way. And then try to name the things and the feelings that arise from it. Try to remember how you felt in that very moment back in time. For example, if it made you feel embarrassed, tell yourself, "This makes me feel embarrassed. This hurt me because I felt like there was something inherently wrong with me. And this hurt me because I felt ashamed for who I am, for just expressing my true self." If it makes you feel sad, if it makes you cry, tell yourself, "This makes me sad. This makes me very sad." If it makes you feel angry, good. Because now you know that because it makes you angry, or it made you angry, it hurt you a lot. And some boundary of yours, some value of yours was crossed. Allow yourself to feel each and every one of the emotions that arise, and make sense of them by clarifying and by giving them names this way. To be able to heal, we need to forgive others for hurting us, but even more importantly, we need to forgive ourselves for just trying to survive. To be able to forgive yourself for not knowing any better in those situations where you perhaps did something wrong, or you did something that made other people unsettled and uncomfortable. You need to understand one crucial factor that I already mentioned before, something that determines how you react and function in your surroundings before you can even affect it yourself. And that is your nervous system. I need you to understand that it is absolutely not your fault that you keep reacting in certain ways in certain situations. For example, by shutting down or being off-putting in social situations. Because that right there is your nervous system trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe. You cannot blame yourself for your nervous system just trying to survive the situations by trying to protect you by doing the very thing that it needs to do in those situations just to keep you safe. And it is a reflex. It's not in any way your fault, my love. I want to take away that burden you carry every single day for being ashamed of your past social interactions. Because I know how much it hurts. It hurts so much that it feels like your heart is being ripped into small pieces. But by realizing that it was never your fault in the first place, but instead what it is a survival instinct. That's what it was. You can finally forgive yourself and let go of this burden. After forgiving yourself, make a conscious choice to forgive the people that hurt you, that caused you the harm. Realize that most of the times they were being mean to you, or you perceived the situation in a way that they maybe disliked you or had a personal issue with you. Was them just being uncomfortable with the situation itself, and it had actually nothing to do with who you are as a person. It had nothing to do with you. They were actually most probably not aiming to hurt you just to hurt you. They also probably just didn't know any better. Of course, I'm not invalidating your perspectives or perceptions of the situation at all. Trust me, I have been thinking about the exact same thing, that these people are just inherently evil by nature. And I'm sure that there are people like that. There are narcissistic bullies who just, even when they know to do better, they hurt people and they do nasty and bad things to others. And they're just inherently mean. Of course there are people like that. I'm not saying that. But understanding this, that there's this possibility that it had nothing to do with you, but with their uncomfortability and lack of experience, will help you to forgive them. And even the people who are just evil by nature, they were once innocent souls and they were once good, because I believe that when babies are born into this world, they are inherently good and innocent, but something happens to them. Some evil entity takes over them and they become very evil. So don't punish them for their pain either. Forgive people for not having any knowledge about your conditions, that they were not provided that knowledge about your autism or ADHD or whatever condition you have. In that way, it's not their fault, because maybe if they had known better, they wouldn't have judged you. I have forgiven the people who hurt me and traumatized me. I put myself in their shoes, and let me tell you, by doing that, I released a great portion of the burden. Because by forgiving others and yourself, you free yourself. You can finally move on from the pain, because now the ties are cut. Step 3, and maybe the most important step of all, is that you have to start healing and rewiring your nervous system. This doesn't happen overnight, but once you start doing this, this will help you tremendously. Because understand that it's the core reason for your suffering, because every time you interact in this world, your nervous system is the factor that determines how you react and how you feel in those situations. Understand that when you're socializing, because of the ways you felt in your past social interactions, because people judged you and punished you, etc., your nervous system now perceives social situations as threats, as something that it needs to protect you from. And therefore you keep having issues with socializing. You keep behaving in weird ways and defensive ways and having these strong reactions that make you extremely uncomfortable because your nervous system reacts that way by default. But it is luckily possible to rewire and heal your nervous system and create safety in those situations. How to do this is you can learn to slowly unmask. Tell yourself that I have the right to socialize the way I am. I have the right to express myself just as I am. I have the right to steam. I have the right to be off-putting to people because that doesn't matter. And if they ask you, you can tell them, look, I'm autistic. That's who I am. And if it still makes them uncomfortable and they don't accept you, then you know that those people aren't your people. They aren't worth the time to even socialize with, to interact with. Another way you can do this is by engaging activities that turn on your parasympathetic nervous system. That is a way you can start rewiring and reburdening your nervous system. What are these? These are, for example, steaming. We steam because this right here, this steaming, it alleviates our nervous system. It calms down and regulates the nervous system. This is very crucial for us, and nobody has the right to not make you steam because steaming is the way you cope with an extremely sensitive nervous system. So allow yourself to steam, and if your teachers or other people have a problem with it, tell them that, look, I have this condition, I am autistic, or just, you don't have to tell that. You can just tell, this is a way that I regulate my nervous system. This makes me calm because I'm nervous. And if they don't understand you, they're not worth your time anyway. Okay, another way you can start healing your nervous system is by doing affirmations. I like to tell myself when I'm nervous in social situations, for example, that I am safe. I can just chill and relax and to be myself. And there's no threats. These people are just like me. We're all the same and we're all in the same boat and we're all weird and we all have quirks and that is okay. I'm safe. I can just breathe deep and enjoy this moment, and that's how you create safety for yourself. The last step to your healing is to treat yourself and other people like you treat children. Why? Because realize, unlike we've been told, we actually never lose our child self. The inner child always lives within us. Even adults, they can just be perceived as children because the child never leaves them. Who we are as children stays within us always. And therefore, you have to treat yourself like you would treat your inner child. You have to treat other people like children. This is the way you can forgive them and be gentle with them, and of course yourself. First, allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself the room to make mistakes. Would you punish a child for not knowing any better in a situation or by making a mistake? No. So why would you do it for yourself? This has helped me tremendously. I used to punish myself for everything. And it makes me sad to think about that because my inner child never deserved it. I have to treat myself like I would treat a child. I have to mother myself. In the same way, if I'm being judgmental of other people, I try to remind myself that, they're just children. Like, forgive them, treat them like children. realize that making mistakes is not bad. Nothing bad will happen if you make a mistake. It is part of life, and everyone makes mistakes. And if you know you have a good heart, if you know you have good intentions and you're just trying your best, there's no reason to ever punish yourself for making a mistake or not knowing any better. You're still probably very young, and even if you're old, it's normal because we're humans. And from your mistakes, you learn the most. It's very human. Treat yourself as human and allow yourself to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, tell yourself, okay, what can I learn from this? What did I learn from this? And then turn it into a victory. Okay, from this mistake, I learned an amazing lesson. I became wiser. I became a better person. Now I can teach other people from this mistake. Turn it into a positive thing. Reward yourself for conquering fears or after you tried your best. For example, if you notice that you did very good in some situation, for example, you were very nice to somebody even if you were a little nervous or whatever, reward yourself afterwards. Let's have a party because you're learning, you tried your best, and that's all that matters. So reward yourself. Give yourself taps into the shoulder and be like, yes, my inner child, we did this, we're getting better, look, we can improve, look, this is not as bad as we thought it was in the beginning. Life is actually good. So be very kind with yourself. Treat yourself as you would treat loved ones. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching my video, and thank you so much for your support. I really hope that this video was of service for you. I really hope you will find a way to heal your wounds, heal your social trauma, and that you feel less alone. Remember that everything is possible and you can become a master in socializing even if you are autistic, and you are limitless. And I also want to remind you that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, and you cannot be expected to function the same way as neurotypical people do, because your resources are completely different. You have a completely different programming in your mind and your nervous system. So it cannot be expected from you to know any better, because how can you, for example, see if you don't have eyes? You can't. So it cannot be expected from neurodivergent people to behave like neurotypicals. So don't expect that from you either. And remember that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you and everything wrong with the world around us that doesn't have enough knowledge and doesn't understand us enough and doesn't make the conscious effort to make the world a better place for neurodivergent people. That's what we really need to do, and that's why I'm here. Okay guys, I also want to remind you that you are incredibly valuable and beautiful. Unlike you've been told, your mind is very valuable, and who you are at your core is extremely beautiful and valuable. The most amazing people I ever met were neurodivergent people. And this is not biased. Okay, and also remember to watch my other video on how I alleviate my autism symptoms. That video has more to do with the way you can physically, or like the physical things you can do, or like the biological things you can do to alleviate your autism symptoms. It has more to do with like biological factors. This has more to do with trauma healing, psychological things. Okay guys, I love you so much and we will see you in my next video. I love you. Bye.